Hey there everybody, this is 22 Tiger Dude and welcome to Animation Domination Reviews. This one will only be for the premieres of Bob's Burgers and American Dad. Family Guy and The Simpsons had their time, so now it's Bob's Burgers and American Dad to have their time in this double premiere night. So let's go ahead and start off with the Bob's Burgers episode called Purple Rain Union. So this episode is about when Linda gets invited to her high school reunion, and she used to be in this band until she was horribly humiliated back in high school. So Linda, she didn't want to really get back in the band after what happened, but she learned to overcome it and just go out there. So she and the band actually reunite to go play for her high school reunion. Meanwhile, in the subplot, Bob has this big zit. He's embarrassed to go to the reunion because of the big zit he has. But apparently, once he's at the reunion, he's known for being the cool guy because of that big zit, because everyone makes all the comments about his zit and all. Which is weird, but I mean, come on, it's Bob's Burgers. What do you expect? So, Purple Rain Union is, it's okay. There were entertaining moments to it. Like, there were some funny moments. I did laugh at some of the stupidity of everyone making comments at Bob's and Linda's reunion. I also thought it was cool to see Linda be back with her high school pals to reunite in this band. It was a little bit annoying, but overall, I had a pretty enjoyable time watching it. The storylines overall really weren't too bad. They were watchable. They aren't anything too special, but I guess it's written well enough to have your attention. The problems this episode does suffer from is that it does get boring. I do lose interest in the whole high school reunion thing. It just seems to drag on after a while. And after a while with the whole Bob comment zit plot, I thought it got a little too stupid as it kept going on. The kids, as usual, they're just annoying. It is predictable, and it had a very abrupt and rushed ending. Overall, Purple Rain Union, it wasn't too bad of an episode. It was okay. I had an entertaining time watching it, so I'll give the Bob's Burgers episode Purple Rain Union a 6 out of 10. Now I'm here to review the American Dad episode, Independent Movie. Independent Movie is about when Snot finds out that his father died. So Steve actually tries to help Snot let out his emotions because Snot feels nothing about the death of his father. And it could be because that Snot's father has always abandoned him and never got to really know him enough to really cry about him. So Steve and the rest of the guys, they take him on this road trip to go to Snot's father's funeral, and hopefully Snot could get some emotions out. It's in this nice independent movie style. That is why the movie's called Independent Movie. This episode does barely have a subplot, but this subplot involves Stan and Roger with this cake. It really is barely in this episode. It was only in one scene, and then the other scene, you see a customer briefly watch the commercial of their cake, and then you see the finale of their subplot in the end credits of this episode. So there is a subplot, but it was barely in this episode. I gotta say that I was really impressed with this episode. Independent Movie is very well made. It's one of the most brilliant episodes I've ever seen in American Dad. It's not a funny episode, and this episode is not meant to be funny. They actually did try to do something unique with the story. I did actually appreciate the fact it was at that serious tone. Definitely the scene where Snot finally let out his emotions about his father passing away. It was pretty powerful, and I thought it was such a well-handled moment. I appreciate this episode because if you guys watch my movie reviews, you know that I love movies. I appreciate movies. I could appreciate mainstream movies, and I can appreciate independent movies. I just love the art and style of independent movies, and how this episode actually captured the style of it. It was all subtle. It was really relaxing. It really is such a brilliant episode. As for the subplot, it's rarely in this episode. I thought it was very enjoyable. I just wish they saved that subplot for another episode so they could have expanded it more, because I do feel like there was a little more to the subplot. Like, we all knew what went on with the subplot, it's pretty obvious, but I would have liked to actually seen it. I think it would have been more entertaining that way. So in a way, it was pointless. This is the one episode where a subplot really didn't have to be added in there. This subplot easily could have been used for another episode, but I really enjoyed it though. Zooey Deschanel, she guest starred in this episode, and I thought she did a really good job voicing this girl that Steve was just all over. My only flaws with this episode is, once again, yeah, the subplot is a little bit pointless. They could have expanded the subplot more, used it for another episode. I thought Steve was a jerk, especially since it was his idea to get Snot to go to his father's funeral. And there was a point where I was a little bored with this episode, but overall I thought Independent Movie was a fantastic episode. Such great writing, it was so subtle, and I thought the ending to the episode was just brilliant. You know, the ending they showed of the main plot before it cuts to the end credits where it shows the subplot. It was so brilliant. Just loved how that was handled. I gotta give this episode a 9 out of 10. If you haven't seen it, watch it. It's not your ordinary American Dad episode. That's all I can say. Just plain great.